Assalamu alaikum. We have started this, series of taking the Surah Al-Quran and trying to really get close to the Al-محور, to the axis, to the basic theme of each surah, to try to really simplify the Quran for our youth as much as possible. We don't want the Quran to be kitaban mahjura, a book that nobody really touches, and we want it to be something that is really the guidance as it is supposed to be. Allah said that the Quran hudan linnas, it's guidance. So we wanted to kind of make it a Quran 101, if you want to say that, or Quran made easy. Quran is not really complicated, but a lot of people have this feeling like it's talasim, it's this puzzle that might be a different, an older language, but we want to try to use simple language to connect, especially our youth who, for example, in the U.S. and in countries where the Quran is not part of the curriculum, they feel like it's an ancient book, and it certainly isn't. And that's why we started, this khawatir in our Taraweeh at the Crescent Center, and that's why I urge you to subscribe to the channel, only to be able to get what's new and to share it with your kids or your relatives. Because we want to try to look for what's the central theme of each surah. And I want to get to the Surah Al-Fatiha and another, khatira. Today we're going to talk about Surah Al-Baqarah. And Surah Al-Baqarah is obviously the longest surah in the Quran, but you have to also remember, even though it's number 2 in the Mus'haf, it actually came in the Medina. And that's why it's a surah that is Madaniya. The difference between Madani and Mekki, when you hear that about surah, Madani means it's after the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. The main theme in Surah Al-Baqarah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted istikhlaf and yaj'al fil ardi khalifa, to create a representative or a successor. I use the word representative because successor sounds like Allah has somebody who's doing the job for him, but no, we actually represent him. In the surah, you will find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts with the story of Sayyidina Adam, because that was the first story where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that test of do and do not do to Sayyidina Adam, and taught him what it means to obey, and what it is not to obey. And in the case that you do not obey, Allah sent Sayyidina Adam kalimat fa'atammahun, meaning Allah gave him the concept of tawbah, which we will get to more in Surah At-Tawbah, which you will find also in this Quran Made Easy series. So the two paradigms that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses after Sayyidina Adam are the story of Bani Israel, as the story of those who basically got the Risala, and Allah says that He فضلناكم على العالمين. True that at that time Allah did give them that status of being picked as the ones to carry the Risala, and that's why at that time they were the chosen people. But they're not now, because they failed, as we see in front of us in Surah Al-Baqarah. They made a lot of mistakes. They asked Sayyidina Musa, Arina Allah jahratan, we want to see Allah in person. They started worshipping the Ajl, the calf. We know the story of Ashab al-Sabt. All these mistakes and more, and the story of the Baqarah. They were not basically obeying the orders, and they kept on asking irrelevant questions. All these things made them, at the end, ينقضوا الميثاق. They basically did not live up to the covenant that they had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they became the basically group or the paradigm that you should not follow in the istikhlaf on the ard. On the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim, and Sayyidina Ibrahim basically lived up to the test, and that's why Allah says, even though it was only him, He says that Sayyidina Ibrahim kana ummah, because he by himself represents that group or that school of thought that we should follow, and he is an example, and that's why he is Abul Anbiya, because from him all the prophets carried the same risala of the Tawheed, which we will get into in the different surah. But as you see, the story in Surah Al-Baqarah, of course, now we can talk about other things in Surah Al-Baqarah, but the most important part of it that you have to really remember, if you don't remember anything about Surah Al-Baqarah, is that it really gave us the idea of istikhlaf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling the malaika, inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa, I am going to make a representative or a successor on earth. And then the story of Sayyidina Adam and how that story became the initial experiment, so to speak. And then we have two experiments, one that failed, the Yahud or Bani Israel more specifically, and then the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim. Now, once that is established, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a lot of examples about what this new society should be all about. And he starts and this is again a surah that came down in the Medina, telling us about the basics of this manhaj, of this let's say this manual that we have to follow. And that's where Allah talks about the importance of ta'ah, and the first experiment for the Muslims in following that paradigm and in following the orders was تغيير القبلة, the change of the qibla, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الْقِبْلَةَ الَّتِي كُنْتَ عَلَيْهَا إِلَّا لِنَعْلَمَ مَنْ يَتَّبِعَ الرَّسُولَ مِمَّنْ يَنْقَلِبَ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ. The whole reason behind تغيير القبلة is to see who will follow the Prophet and who will not. But what is really important, Allah says in the ayah 177, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر. The birr and the salah, being a good Muslim, is not about which way to face, whether it's to the east or to the west, but it is to believe in Allah واليوم الآخر and the angels and the kitab والنبيين. And then, by the way, this ayah really sums up the Islam in totality. وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة, about الصلاة, الزكاة, وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين, the importance of sabr, all of that, والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس. So this gives us, basically the manhaj that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be talking about throughout the Quran. Now it's important to remember that Sayyidina Ibrahim, he obviously succeeded in the test, and he asked Allah to make him an imam, and Allah obviously made him an imam. But Sayyidina Ibrahim, just like every human would want his dhurriyyah to also be a'imma. So he said, وَمِن dhurriyyati, what about my posterity? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا ينال عهد الظالمين. So those that are not good people, they will not get the ahd, the mithaq, regardless if they are your kids or your family or your posterity or anybody that is connected to you. And we saw that in the story of Sayyidina Nuh. It's all about, each person. لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى, and every person will be judged based on their mithaq and their compliance. So we see that the conclusion of Surah Al-Baqarah in of itself gives that whole idea about الطاعة. And while the Bani Israel said to their prophet Sayyidina Musa, سمعنا وعصينا, we as Muslims, we have khawatim Surah Al-Baqarah, where we say in the khawatim, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. And the ayah before that, we say وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. So you see, they say, yes, we have heard and we obey. We ask for your forgiveness, and to you we will return. You will see how the two paradigms, Bani Israel, سمعنا وعصينا, we heard and we disobey. المسلمين سمعنا وأطعنا. And that's basically the essence of Surah Al-Baqarah, Al-Istikhlaf, and the two categories or two experiences, two experiments. And we definitely want to be on the right side of the ta'ah and of the istikhlaf, and that's why we want to be just like Sayyidina Ibrahim and the Anbiya that came after him, Sayyidina Nuh, Sayyidina Hud, Lut, Shu'aib. They all basically had the same message of Tawheed and ta'ah. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعلنا ممن يسمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.